Red light filled the command center as another ship exploded in the distance. Commander Zara looked at the screen showing the battle outside. Her hands shook as she held onto the control panel. The enemy had been attacking Kepler Station for 18 days straight. Her once powerful fleet was now broken and weak. "Give me a report," she said to her officer. Her voice was tired and full of worry. Lieutenant Kevin looked up from his computer. His uniform was dirty and torn. "We lost 2 more ships, Commander. The Starfire and the Nebula's Edge are gone. The enemy has us completely surrounded. They have 47 big ships and 3 huge battleships. Our 7 ships left are only working at 30% power." Zara closed her eyes. She felt the weight of command crushing her. Kepler Station was not just any base. It was the main supply center for the entire outer region of space. If it fell to the enemy, they would have a clear path to attack her peoples. Home worlds. "Any word from our leaders back home?" she asked, though she already knew the answer would be bad. "No, Commander. The closest help is still 12 days away. We are alone here." The bridge became quiet except for the sound of failing machines and distant explosions. Zara stared out at the enemy fleet. Their ships were arranged in perfect order, like hunters circling wounded animals docked below in the observation deck. Dr. Martin sat surrounded by old books and computer files. The old scientist had been studying the station's records. He was looking for anything that might help them win against such terrible odds. His search had led him to the oldest section of the database. This section contained legends and myths from long ago. "Commander," Dr. Martin's voice came through the communication system. "I may have found something. Can you come down here?" Zara looked at her tactical officer, who nodded sadly. There was nothing they could do but wait for the enemy's final attack. "I'm coming, Doctor." The observation deck was dark with long shadows across scattered historical documents. Dr. Martin looked up as Zara entered. His eyes were bright with discovery despite their hopeless situation. "Commander, I have been researching historical battles against impossible odds. Most are just different ways of using normal tactics. But I found references to something completely different. Doctor, unless you found a way to make a fleet appear from nothing, I don't see how old history can help us know." Dr. Martin turned. On a display showing broken text and pictures. "These are references to a species called humans. The records are incomplete and scattered across many databases. But they all tell similar stories. Battles where small human forces faced huge odds and somehow won." Zara looked at the display with doubt. "I have never heard of this species. Are you sure these are not just made-up stories?" "That's what I thought at first. But the references come from many different civilizations across different time periods. The details are the same everywhere. Humans who refused to run away. Humans who fought with incredible determination. Humans who turned certain defeat into victory through pure will and strange tactics." The commander shook her head. "Even if such a species existed, they are clearly not here now. We need real solutions, not fairy tales." Before Dr. Martin could answer, Lieutenant Kevin's voice echoed through the station speakers. "Commander, we are detecting an unknown ship approaching from the outer system. It's not sending any identification signals. It doesn't match any known enemy ship design." Zara hurried back to the command center. Her mind was racing. Could it be an advanced scout from the relief fleet? The tactical display showed a single ship, smaller than one of their cruisers. It was moving in an unusual path that would bring it directly into the battle zone. "What can you tell me about it?" she asked. "The ship appears to be heavily armed, but uses an unknown engine type. It's not answering our calls. The enemy fleet seems to be moving to intercept it." Zara watched the display with growing confusion. If this was an enemy ship, why was it not working with their fleet? If it was a friendly ship, why approach alone against such huge odds? Keep watching it, and get ready for the possibility that we are about to have company. As the unknown ship continued coming toward them, Dr. Martin's words echoed in her mind. Stories of beings who fought impossible battles and somehow found a way to win. She pushed the thought away as desperation. Talking. But something deep inside whispered that maybe legends had a way of becoming real when they were needed most. The enemy fleet was now moving some of their ships to deal with the approaching vessel. Admiral Corvades, the enemy commander, studied his tactical display with interest. "Report on the approaching ship," he ordered. "Sir, it's about 300 meters long, unknown design. The hull material doesn't match any species in our database. It's maintaining a direct course toward the station, despite our warning shots." Admiral Corvades smiled slightly. "Foolish. Send a squadron to intercept and destroy it. I won't have any interference with our final attack." Back on the station, Dr. Martin had gathered a small group of off-duty workers in the observation deck. The old scholar was becoming more convinced that the approaching ship might be connected to the legends he had been studying. "Listen to this," he said, showing another display. "This is from an old colonial archive, dated about 200 years ago. The human ship appeared from nowhere, outnumbered 50 to 1. By all military rules, they should have been destroyed in minutes. Instead, they somehow organized a defense that saved our entire colony fleet." Lieutenant Kevin, who had joined the group during his break, looked doubtful. "Doctor, you're talking about ghost stories. There's no record of any species called humans in current space databases." "That's exactly what makes it so interesting," Dr. Martin replied. "It's as if they disappeared from official records, but the stories continue. Look at this one from a trade guild. The humans fought like beings possessed, using tactics that went against normal military rules. They seemed to view impossible odds not as obstacles, but as challenges to overcome." Commander Zara entered the observation deck again. Her face was grim. "Doctor, I need you to focus on practical matters. We have identified the approaching ship. It's unlike anything in our databases. Do your historical records contain any information about unknown ship designs?" Dr. Martin's eyes went wide as he quickly searched through his data. "Commander, what if it's not unknown? What if it's a ship design we have never seen, because it belongs to a species we thought was mythical? You're suggesting that ship is human?" Zara asked. Her voice carried both doubt and desperate hope. "The timing is too perfect to be coincidence. We are facing impossible odds, just like in the legends. And now a mysterious ship appears from nowhere, approaching directly into a battle zone where any sane commander would run away." Lieutenant Kevin checked his communicator. "Commander, the enemy fleet has sent 6 cruisers to intercept the unknown ship. They will make contact in about 30 minutes. Zara studied the tactical display showing the approaching ship. Its course had not changed despite the enemy response. It maintained a steady approach that suggested either incredible confidence or suicidal determination. "Doctor, assuming your theory is correct, what do these legends tell us about human combat?" "Tactics?" Dr. Martin activated several displays at once. "The accounts vary, but certain themes appear consistently. Humans apparently excel at coordinated attacks, using smaller forces to achieve maximum psychological impact. They seem to specialize in turning enemy strengths into weaknesses. And they never retreat," added a young engineer named Lisa, who had been listening carefully. "Every story mentions their refusal to abandon allies, even when military rules would demand withdrawal." Commander Zara felt a strange mix of hope and disbelief. Her military training rejected such fantastic thinking, but desperate situations sometimes required unconventional solutions. "Commander," Lieutenant Kevin's voice came through the communication system. "The unknown ship is now broadcasting on standard frequencies. They are requesting permission to communicate directly with Station Command. Zara hurried back to the command center. Her mind was racing with possibilities. If this was indeed human ship, if the legends contained even a piece of truth, then maybe their situation was not as hopeless as it seemed. The siege of Kepler Station was about to take an unexpected turn. None of the defenders could have imagined how dramatically. Their situation was about to change. "Open the channel," Zara commanded. The main screen turned on, showing the bridge of the unknown ship. The beings on screen were unlike any species Zara had ever seen. They walked on two legs and had faces that showed emotion clearly. Their eyes seemed to burn with determined intelligence. "Kepler Station, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Nations ship Defiance. We received your distress signal and are prepared to help." Zara stared at the human captain. She noticed the calm confidence in his voice despite the terrible odds they faced. "Captain Morrison, I appreciate your offer, but you are approaching a battle zone where you will be outnumbered more than 40 to 1. I strongly advise you to withdraw to a safe distance." Captain Morrison's expression did not change. "Commander, we have analyzed the tactical situation. The enemy fleet is overconfident and poorly positioned for defense. With proper coordination, we believe this engagement can be won." The bridge fell silent. Zara felt her heart racing as she processed the human's words. Winnable? Against a fleet that had already destroyed most of her forces. "Captain, are you certain you understand the size of the opposition you are facing?" Morrison's smile was slight, but clear. "Commander, we are human. Impossible odds are sort of our specialty." As the communication ended, Dr. Martin's voice came through the observation deck speaker. "Commander, I believe we are about to witness the legends come to life." The enemy interceptor squadron was now closing rapidly on the human ship. 6 heavy cruisers against one unknown vessel should have been a sure victory. But Captain Jake Morrison stood calmly on his bridge, studying the tactical display like a chess master examining a game. "Status report," Morrison commanded. "All systems working." "Normally, Captain," replied Chief Engineer Carlos. His hands moved quickly across the engineering controls. "Shields at maximum, weapons charged and ready. I have the engines running hot for maximum movement." Tactical Officer Lisa looked up from her station. "Sir, the enemy ships are deploying in a standard intercept formation. They are trying to box us in and force a direct fight." "Predictable," Morrison noted. "Communications. Open a channel to Kepler Station." Communications Specialist Amy nodded. "Channel open, sir." "Commander Zara, this is Captain Morrison. We are about to engage the enemy interceptors. I need you to prepare your remaining ships for a coordinated strike once we have disrupted their formation." Zara's voice came through clearly, filled with disbelief. "Captain, you are facing 6 heavy cruisers. Even if you somehow survive the engagement, how do you expect to disrupt their formation?" Morrison's smile was barely visible, but his crew had learned to recognize it as a sign that their captain was about to do something that would later be discussed in military schools across human space. "Commander, you are thinking like someone who has never seen humans fight. Watch and learn." The lead enemy cruiser, Relentless Fury, opened fire at maximum range. Brilliant streams of energy lanced across space toward the Defiance. The human ship's response was immediate and unexpected. Instead of trying to dodge or return fire, it accelerated directly toward the attacking formation. "Evasive maneuvers," called out Lieutenant Lisa. "They are trying to bracket us with crossfire." "Negative," Morrison replied calmly. "Maintain course." "Carlos, give me everything the engines have." The Defiance plunged into the enemy formation like a spear thrust through a shield wall. The human ship's unconventional tactics caught the enemy commanders off guard. No sane captain would charge directly into overwhelming firepower, But Captain Morrison was not just any captain, and the Defiance was not just any ship. Now, Morrison commanded, the human vessel unleashed a devastating attack at point-blank range. Its advanced weapons tore through the shields of the closest enemy cruiser. The enemy ship, designed for long-range bombardment, was completely unprepared for such close-quarters combat. "Target the Relentless Fury's engine section," ordered Lisa. Firing solution locked. The Defiance's weapons had been designed by human engineers who understood that sometimes the best defense was an overwhelmingly aggressive offense. The concentrated fire disabled the enemy flagship's propulsion system, sending it spinning helplessly. "Out of formation. One down," Morrison noted with satisfaction. "Amy, broadcast to the remaining enemy ships on all frequencies. Channel open, sir." "Enemy commanders, this is Captain Morrison. You have 10 seconds to withdraw from this engagement zone, or we will demonstrate why humans have a reputation for being unreasonable." The response came from Admiral Corvanis himself. His voice was filled with rage and disbelief. "Human vessel, you are outnumbered and outgunned. Surrender immediately or face destruction." Morrison's expression did not change. "Admiral, I don't think you understand the situation. We are not trapped here with you. You are trapped here with us." The remaining 5 enemy cruisers moved to surround the Defiance, but their coordinated formation had already been disrupted. The human ship's unexpected charge had forced them into a defensive posture, exactly as Morrison had intended. "Lisa, target their command and control systems. Don't destroy them, just make them blind and deaf." "Understood, sir. Firing." The Defiance's next attack was precisely targeted. It disabled sensor arrays and communication equipment across the enemy formation. The enemy ships found themselves isolated, unable to coordinate their attacks effectively. Aboard Kepler Station, Commander Zara watched the engagement with growing amazement. The human ship was outnumbered 5-1, yet somehow it had seized the initiative and was dictating the terms of the battle. "Doctor," she called to Martin, "are you seeing this?" "Indeed, Commander." The legends spoke of humans who fought with unprecedented tactical flexibility. It appears they were not exaggerating. Lieutenant Kevin stared at the tactical display in disbelief. "Commander, the human ship is actually winning. They have disabled 2 enemy cruisers and scattered the rest." "Of the formation." Morrison's voice came through the communication system. "Commander Zara, this is your opportunity. The enemy fleet is focused on us and has broken their siege formation. If you can coordinate your remaining ships for a simultaneous strike on their command ship, we can turn this entire engagement around." Zara felt her tactical instincts awakening for the first time in cycles. The human captain was right. The enemy fleet had committed their reserves to deal with the Defiance, leaving their main formation vulnerable. "All ships, this is Commander Zara. Prepare for coordinated assault on Admiral Corvanis's flagship. Follow the human ship's lead and target their command systems." Back in the observation deck, Dr. Martin was frantically searching through more historical records. What he was witnessing matched perfectly with the ancient accounts he had discovered. "Listen to this," he called to the gathered crew members. "This is from a military archive 300 years old. The human commander did not retreat when faced with superior numbers. Instead, they used their ship's speed and maneuverability to divide the enemy fleet, creating opportunities for coordinated strikes by allied forces." Lisa, the young engineer, looked up from monitoring the battle. "Doctor, how many of these accounts are there?" "Hundreds, perhaps thousands, scattered across different civilizations, different time periods, but all telling the same basic story. Humans who appeared during desperate battles and somehow found a way to win." "But why?" asked another crew member. "What do they gain from helping other species?" Dr. Martin paused in his research. That's the most interesting question of all. From what I can determine, humans seem to intervene not for personal gain, but to maintain some kind of balance in the galaxy. They appear when peaceful civilizations face extinction. The battle outside continued to rage. The human ship moved through the enemy formation with a grace that defied physics. Every maneuver seemed calculated to create maximum confusion among the enemy while providing opportunities for the Zephyrian ships to strike. "Look at their movement patterns," observed Lieutenant Kevin. "They are not just randomly attacking. Every action serves multiple purposes." Dr. Martin nodded. "According to the legends, human tactical thinking operates on multiple levels simultaneously. They don't just plan their next move, they plan their opponent's response to their next move." Commander Zara's voice came through the speakers. "All ships execute attack pattern Delta. The human ship has created an opening in their defensive line. The Zephyrian ships, battered but still functional, moved to exploit the gap the Defiance had created. Their coordinated attack struck the enemy command ship shields with devastating effect. On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Morrison watched the combined assault with satisfaction. "Carlos, how are our shields holding?" "Down to 40%. "Captain, but the enemy formation is completely disrupted. They cannot coordinate effectively anymore." "Then it's time to finish this. Lisa, prepare for the final phase." The human ship suddenly changed tactics again. Instead of continuing its hit-and-run attacks, it began a series of precise strikes designed to disable rather than destroy enemy vessels. The enemy commanders, already confused and demoralized, found themselves facing an opponent who seemed to anticipate their every move. "Admiral Corvanis," Morrison's voice broadcast across all frequencies, "your fleet is defeated. Order your ships to stand down, and we can end this without further casualties." There was a long pause before the enemy. The space around Kepler Station was now filled with floating debris and disabled enemy ships. The massive enemy command ship, Absolute Dominion, drifted powerless with its systems dark. Admiral Corvanis sat on his bridge, effectively a prisoner. On his own flagship, Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of the Defiance, working with Commander Zara to organize the recovery operations. The human ship had taken some damage, but remained fully operational. This showed both the quality of human engineering and the brilliance of their attack strategy. "Damage report," Morrison requested. "Shields at 20%. Hull breaches on." "Decks 4 and 7, but nothing critical," reported Carlos. "We can complete repairs using station resources within 12 hours. Casualties?" "Minor injuries only, sir." The crew performed exceptionally well. Lisa looked up from her tactical console. "Captain, we are receiving surrender signals from the remaining enemy ships." "They are requesting terms for surrender," Morrison nodded. "Put me through to Admiral Corvanis." The main display turned on, showing the enemy commander's bridge. Admiral Corvanis sat in his command chair. His uniform was torn, and his face showed defeat and confusion. "Admiral," Morrison began, "I am prepared to accept your surrender and arrange for the evacuation of your crews. In return, I need your word that the enemy fleet will withdraw from this sector and leave the Zephyrian territories in peace." Corvanis stared at the human captain with something close to awe. "Captain Morrison, in 40 years of military service, I have never seen tactics like yours. How did you know our formation would collapse?" "Admiral, you made the same mistake most military commanders make when facing humans. You assumed we would follow conventional tactical rules. But humans have a different relationship with warfare. We don't just fight battles, we solve problems." "Explain." Morrison leaned forward slightly. "Your fleet was positioned for a siege, not a mobile engagement. When we disrupted your formation, you tried to adapt using standard procedures. But humans excel at creating situations where standard procedures don't apply. Aboard Kepler Station, Commander Zara was conducting her own assessment of the battle. The tactical recordings would be studied for generations. Already, she could see patterns that went against everything she had learned about space combat. "Dr. Martin," she called to the elderly scholar, "I need to understand something. The legends you discovered, were they all combat-related?" "Doctor." Martin turned on his display, showing text fragments from across the galaxy. "Not exclusively, Commander. There are accounts of humans in diplomatic situations, engineering challenges, even rescue operations. The common thread is not violence. It's their refusal to accept limitations." "Explain what you mean." "Consider this account from trade negotiations on Rigel. The human diplomat achieved in 3 days what had eluded us for 3 months. When asked how they had resolved the problem, they simply said they had refused to accept that a solution was impossible." Lieutenant Kevin joined the conversation. "Commander, we have completed our analysis of the battle. The human tactics violated 17 principles of standard military doctrine. And yet they won," Zara observed. "Perhaps our doctrine needs updating." Captain Morrison's voice came through the communication system. "Commander Zara, could you join me aboard the Defiance? I would like to discuss the strategic implications of this engagement." Zara made her way to the human ship, accompanied by Dr. Martin and Lieutenant Kevin. The interior of the Defiance was unlike any vessel she had ever seen. It was compact but efficient, with systems that seemed designed for maximum flexibility rather than standardized procedures. "Welcome aboard." Morrison greeted them in the ship's briefing room. "I wanted to discuss what happens next." "Next?" Zara asked. "Commander, word of this battle will spread throughout the galaxy. The enemy empire will learn that humans are active in this sector. They will adjust their strategies accordingly. You need to be prepared for that." Dr. Martin leaned forward. "Captain, according to the legends, humans disappeared from galactic affairs approximately 200 years ago. Why are you here now?" Morrison exchanged glances with his crew. "Doctor, humanity never disappeared. We have been watching, learning, preparing. When civilizations face extinction-level threats, when peaceful species are threatened by overwhelming force, we intervene." "But why?" Zara asked. "What do you gain from these interventions?" Morrison's expression grew serious. "Commander, humans learned long ago that the galaxy is a dangerous place. We have seen what happens when aggressive species are allowed to expand unchecked. Sometimes the only way to prevent greater tragedies is to remind the galaxy that there are consequences for predatory behavior." Amy spoke up. "Sir, we are receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command." "Put it through." The display activated, showing a human woman in military uniform. "Captain Morrison, this is Admiral Patricia Hayes. Your intervention at Kepler Station has been noted. How do you assess the strategic situation?" "Admiral, the enemy empire has suffered a significant tactical defeat, but they will adapt quickly. The Zephyrian Alliance will need ongoing support to maintain their territorial integrity." "Understood. The Sol Defense Fleet is deploying to this sector. We will establish a permanent presence to ensure stability." As the communication ended, Commander Zara realized the full implications of what had occurred. The battle at Kepler Station had not just saved her people. It had announced humanity's return to galactic affairs. "Captain," she said, "the legends spoke of humans who appeared in times of crisis and then vanished. Are you planning to disappear again?" Morrison's smile was mysterious. "Commander, humans have learned that the best way to maintain peace is to be prepared for war. The galaxy is about to discover that the legends were not just stories. They were warnings." Over the next several hours, the human crew worked alongside the Zephyrian forces to secure the area and process the surrendered enemy vessels. The efficiency of human Zephyrian cooperation was remarkable. As if the two species had been designed to work together, Dr. Martin spent much of this time interviewing the human crew members, eager to understand how their species approached problem-solving differently from others in the galaxy. "Lieutenant Lisa," he asked the human tactical officer, "can you explain your approach to the battle? Your tactics seem to violate basic military principles." Lisa smiled. "Doctor, human military training emphasizes adaptability over rigid doctrine. We are taught to view each situation as unique, requiring unique solutions. Standard tactics are just starting points for us. But how do you coordinate such complex maneuvers without extensive planning?" "Trust," replied Carlos, the engineer. "Human crews train together extensively. We learn to anticipate each other's actions and adapt in real time. This allows us to respond to changing situations faster than forces that rely on predetermined battle plans." Captain Morrison joined the conversation. "Doctor, there's something fundamental you need to understand about human psychology. Most species view problems as obstacles to overcome. Humans view problems as puzzles to solve. The difference is significant." "How so?" "When faced with an obstacle, most species look for ways around it or through it. When humans encounter a puzzle, we look for the underlying pattern that will allow us to not just solve this specific problem, but understand how to solve similar problems in the future." Dr. Martin activated his recording device. "Captain, this conversation is invaluable for understanding human tactical thinking. Would you be willing to provide more examples?" "Certainly. Consider our approach to the enemy fleet. Most commanders would have seen 47 ships and concluded they were outnumbered. We saw 47 ships arranged in a predictable pattern and recognized it as an opportunity to create chaos through targeted disruption." Amy, monitoring communications, looked up from her station. "Captain, we are receiving reports from across the sector. Word of the battle is spreading rapidly through civilian communication networks." "What kind of reports?" "Mostly expressing amazement that the siege was broken. Several planets are requesting confirmation that humans are active in the region again." Morrison nodded thoughtfully. "The psychological impact may be as important as the tactical victory. Fear is a powerful weapon, but so is hope." Commander Zira had been listening to this exchange with growing understanding. "Captain, you are not just fighting military battles. You are fighting for the morale of peaceful civilizations across the galaxy." "Exactly, Commander. Military victory is meaningless if it does not serve a larger strategic purpose. Humans learned long ago that the most effective way to prevent wars is to make potential aggressors question whether victory is possible." Lieutenant Kevin asked, "But what happens when other aggressive species learn to counter human tactics?" Captain Morrison's expression became serious. "Lieutenant, that assumes human tactics are static. One of humanity's greatest strengths is our ability to continuously evolve our approach based on new information. Every battle teaches us something we can apply to future engagements." Dr. Martin was frantically taking notes. "Captain, these insights are revolutionary. The implications for military doctrine across the galaxy are enormous. Doctor, I would caution against trying to simply copy human methods. Our tactics work because they are based on human psychology and capabilities. Other species N." 3 days after the battle, Kepler Station had been transformed from a besieged outpost into a hub of activity. Ships from across the Zephyrian Alliance were arriving to witness the site where a single human vessel had changed the course of Valve. Galactic History. Commander Zara stood in her newly repaired command center, reviewing reports from across the sector. The news was better than she had dared hope. The enemy forces had withdrawn from 3-star systems, apparently unwilling to risk another encounter with human forces. "Commander," Lieutenant Kevin reported, "we are receiving requests from 17 different worlds asking for confirmation that humans are active in this region. They want to know if similar help would be available if they faced attack. Zara nodded. What is Captain Narration's response to these inquiries? He says that humanity evaluates each situation individually. They cannot guarantee intervention, but they monitor threats to peaceful civilizations throughout the galaxy. Dr. Martin entered the command center, carrying a portable computer loaded with his research. The elderly scholar had spent the past 3 days conducting extensive interviews with the human crew, compiling what would become the definitive guide to human tactical thinking. Commander, I have completed my preliminary analysis of human military doctrine. The results are remarkable. Explain. Human tactical thinking operates on 4 distinct levels simultaneously. First, immediate tactical response to current threats. Second, strategic implications for the overall engagement. Third, psychological impact on enemy morale. Fourth, long-term consequences for galactic stability. Zara studied the display doctor. Martin activated. Most species focus on only 1 or 2 of these levels at a time. Exactly. This multi-layered approach allows humans to achieve objectives that appear impossible using conventional analysis. They are not just fighting the current battle. They are fighting future battles that have not yet occurred. Captain Morrison's voice came through the communication system. Commander Zara, we have received new intelligence from Earth Command. There are indications of increased enemy activity in the Outer Rim territories. We may need to coordinate defensive preparations. Zara made her way to the communication center, where Morrison appeared on the main screen. Behind him, she could see the organized efficiency of the human bridge crew. Captain, what kind of activity are we discussing? 3 enemy fleets have been observed massing near the disputed zones. Each fleet is larger than the force that besieged Kepler Station. It appears our victory here has prompted them to escalate their preparations. Are they planning to attack human territories? Morrison shook his head. Intelligence suggests they are planning simultaneous attacks on multiple Zephyrian worlds. The goal appears to be forcing humanity to spread our forces too thin to be effective. Doctor. Martin, who had been listening, leaned forward. Captain, this matches historical patterns I have discovered. When aggressive species encounter human intervention, they often attempt to overwhelm through sheer numbers. Correct, Doctor. This is why human strategic planning focuses heavily on force multiplication. We cannot be everywhere at once, but we can make it appear that we are. Commander Zara felt a chill of apprehension. Captain, are you saying the enemy response to our victory will be even larger attacks? Initially, yes, but this is actually a positive development from a strategic perspective. By forcing them to commit large forces to simultaneous attacks, they become vulnerable to coordinated counterstrikes. Lieutenant Kevin joined the conversation. Sir, how do you coordinate counterstrikes across multiple star systems? Morrison smiled. Lieutenant, that assumes we need to physically travel to each engagement. Human tactical doctrine emphasizes teaching our allies to fight effectively on their own while providing strategic coordination and support. You mean you would not send ships to help defend our worlds? We would send something more valuable than ships, Lieutenant. We would send knowledge. Over the following week, Captain Morrison and his crew began an intensive training program with Zephyrian military personnel. The focus was not on copying human tactics, but on developing Zephyrian approaches that incorporated human strategic thinking. The key principle, Morrison explained to a group of Zephyrian officers, is to make your enemy fight your battle, not their battle. Force them to respond to your initiatives, rather than implementing their own plans. Commander Zara participated in these training sessions, eager to understand how human thinking could be applied to Zephyrian capabilities. Captain, can you give us a practical example? Certainly. Your species excels at long-range sensor technology and communication systems. These capabilities could be used to coordinate attacks across vast distances, making it appear that you have forces in multiple locations simultaneously. Dr. Martin, documenting these sessions, was amazed by the speed at which Zephyrian officers absorbed human strategic concepts. Captain, why are these ideas so easy for other species to understand once they are explained? Doctor, most intelligent species are capable of strategic thinking. The difference is that humans have been forced by our history to develop these skills out of necessity. We are sharing approaches that any species could develop given sufficient motivation. As the training progressed, reports continued to arrive about enemy fleet movements. The intelligence was concerning. 3 massive fleets were indeed massing for coordinated attacks on Zephyrian territories. Commander, Lieutenant Kevin reported, the enemy fleets have been identified. The Northern Fleet has 63 ships. The Central Fleet has 57 ships. The Southern Fleet has 49 ships. Combined, they outnumber our entire defensive capability by more than 3 to 1. Zara felt the familiar weight of command settling on her shoulders. Even with human training and support, facing such overwhelming numbers seemed impossible. Captain Morrison, monitoring the intelligence reports, called a meeting of all senior Zephyrian officers. The situation is serious, but not hopeless. The enemy has made several strategic errors that we can exploit. Explain, Zara requested. First, they have divided their forces into 3 separate fleets. This prevents them from concentrating their full strength at any single point. Second, they are planning simultaneous attacks, which requires precise timing and coordination. Third, they assume we will respond defensively to each attack. Dr. Martin activated his display showing enemy fleet positions. Captain, how do we turn these apparent advantages into weaknesses? We do not respond defensively, Doctor. We respond aggressively. Instead of trying to defend 3 separate attacks, we launch a coordinated offensive that forces them to abandon their attack plans. Commander Zara studied the tactical projections with growing understanding. You are suggesting we attack them before they can attack us? More than that, Commander. We attack them in a way that makes their numerical advantage irrelevant. Human strategic doctrine calls this redefining the battlefield. Lieutenant Kevin looked confused. Sir, how do we redefine a battlefield in space? Morrison smiled. Lieutenant, who says the battlefield has to be in space? The enemy fleets depend on supply lines, communication networks, and command structures. These are all vulnerabilities we can exploit. Over the next several days, the combined human Zephyrian planning sessions developed an unprecedented strategy. Instead of preparing for defensive battles, they would launch coordinated strikes against enemy infrastructure and supply lines. Beauty of this approach, Morrison explained, is that it forces the enemy to choose between continuing their attacks or defending their rear areas. Either choice creates opportunities for us. Amy, monitoring communications, provided regular updates on enemy movements. Captain, the Northern Fleet has begun advancing toward the Kepler sector. The Central and Southern Fleets are maintaining position, apparently waiting for confirmation that the Northern Fleet has engaged. Perfect, Morrison noted. They are following standard military doctrine, which assumes we will respond conventionally. Commander, Zara felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Captain, this strategy requires incredible precision. If our timing is wrong, we could lose everything. Commander, that is true of any strategy against superior numbers. The difference is that this approach gives us the initiative. We are not reacting to their plans. They will be reacting to ours. Dr. Martin had been studying historical precedents for such complex operations. Captain, I have found references to similar human strategies in ancient records. There is a pattern of humans using multi-layered attacks to defeat larger forces. Doctor, You are identifying one of humanity's core strategic principles. We call it asymmetric warfare. When facing superior numbers, change the nature of the conflict to something that favors your strengths over the enemy's strengths. The Northern Fleet continued its advance, apparently confident that they would face only token resistance. Admiral Corvanes, recently exchanged as part of a prisoner agreement, had warned his superiors about human capabilities, but his reports had been dismissed as excuses for his defeat. Commander, Lieutenant Kevin reported, the Northern Fleet is now within strike range of the Kepler system. They have deployed in standard attack formation. Zara looked at Captain Morrison. This is the moment of truth. Are we ready? Morrison nodded. All human and Zephyrian forces are in position. 6 months after the Battle of Kepler Station, Commander Zara found herself aboard the new Zephyrian flagship, the Defiant Spirit. The ship was named in honor of the human vessel that had saved their civilization. The ship incorporated several human design principles, focusing on mobility and tactical flexibility rather than raw firepower. Dr. Martin had become the galaxy's leading expert on human military history. His research was now supported by direct access to human archives. The elderly scholar had discovered that the legends were actually carefully maintained records of human interventions spanning centuries. Commander, Dr. Martin called from his expanded research station, I have received the latest intelligence reports. 3 more civilizations have reported human interventions in the past month. The pattern is consistent. Humans appear when peaceful. Species face extinction-level threats. Zara nodded, studying the tactical display that showed the current positions of both human and enemy fleets. The strategic balance had shifted dramatically since Kepler Station. The enemy empire was forced to reassess their expansion plans. Doctor, have you determined why humans choose to intervene rather than simply defending their own territory? I believe I have, Commander. Humans appear to view galactic civilization as an ecosystem. They intervene not just to save individual species, but to maintain the balance that allows diverse civilizations to coexist. Lieutenant Kevin, now serving as her executive officer, looked up from his console. Commander, we are receiving a transmission from Captain Morrison. The Defiance is requesting permission to dock. Granted. And Kevin, arrange for a full honor ceremony. The human crew has earned our respect. As the Defiance approached the Zephyrian fleet, Zara reflected on how profoundly the encounter had changed not just her people, but her understanding of what was possible in the face of impossible odds. The docking bay was filled with Zephyrian crew members eager to see their human allies again. Captain Morrison and his crew were greeted with the kind of reception usually reserved for returning heroes. In many ways, that was exactly what they were. Captain Morrison, Zara said as she greeted him, welcome back to Zephyrian space. I trust your mission to the Outer Rim was successful? Morrison smiled. More successful than we anticipated, Commander. The Rigel system is now secure, and the local species have established their own defense coalition based on principles we discussed. Here, Dr. Martin joined them, carrying his ever-present research materials. Captain, I have been analyzing the long-term effects of human interventions throughout history. The pattern is remarkable. Every species that receives human assistance develops significantly improved defensive capabilities within 1 generation. That is the goal, Doctor. Humans learned long ago that the most effective way to maintain galactic stability is to teach other species to maintain it themselves. They made their way to the conference room, where senior Zephyrian officers had gathered to hear about developments. Across the galaxy, the news was encouraging. The enemy empire had withdrawn from 12 star systems and was actively seeking peace negotiations with former target species. The psychological impact has been extraordinary, Morrison explained. Word of your victory here at Kepler Station has spread throughout the galaxy. Aggressive species are reconsidering their expansion plans because they know human intervention is possible. Commander Zara studied the galactic map showing current conflict zones. Captain, there are still several regions where peaceful species face threats. Will humans intervene in all of these situations? Not necessarily, Commander. Human doctrine prioritizes teaching species to defend themselves over direct intervention. We provide assistance where it will have the greatest strategic impact. Amy, monitoring communications, looked up from her station. Captain, we are receiving a priority message from Earth Command. Admiral Hayes is requesting a conference with senior Zephyrian leadership. The main display activated, showing Admiral Hayes on the bridge of a massive human dreadnought. Behind her, Zara could see the organized efficiency of a command ship preparing for major operations. Commander Zara, Captain Morrison, Admiral Hayes began, I am pleased to report that the Sol Defense Fleet has completed deployment to this sector. We are establishing permanent monitoring stations to ensure continued stability. Zara felt a mix of relief and concern. Admiral, does this mean humans are planning a permanent military presence in our territory? Not exactly, Commander. These are monitoring and support facilities, not combat bases. Our role will be to provide intelligence, training, and coordination rather than direct military force. Dr. Martin leaned forward. Admiral, this represents a fundamental shift in human galactic policy. What prompted this change? Admiral Hayes paused before answering. Doctor, humanity has concluded that the galaxy has reached a critical point. Aggressive species are becoming more organized and threatening. Passive monitoring is no longer sufficient to maintain the balance we seek. Captain Morrison added, the success of our collaboration here at Kepler Station has proven that human-alien cooperation can be highly effective. We are expanding this model throughout the galaxy. Over the following days, the human and Zephyrian leadership worked together to establish new protocols for ongoing cooperation. The agreements reached would serve as templates for similar arrangements with other peaceful species throughout the galaxy. The key principle, Morrison explained, to a gathering of Zephyrian officers is mutual support rather than dependence. Humans provide strategic guidance and coordination, but each species maintains primary responsibility for their own defense. Lieutenant Kevin asked, Captain, what happens if a threat emerges that exceeds our combined capabilities? Morrison's expression became serious. Lieutenant, that is why humanity is establishing a galactic early warning system. The goal is to identify and address threats before they become overwhelming. Dr. Martin had been documenting these discussions for his historical records. Captain, these arrangements represent the emergence of an entirely new form of galactic government. A voluntary alliance based on shared principles rather than conquest or domination. Exactly, Doctor. Humans believe that diversity of species and cultures makes the galaxy stronger. Our role is to protect that diversity from forces that would destroy it. As the week progressed, delegations from other species began arriving at Kepler Station. News of the Human-Zephyrian alliance had spread rapidly, and many civilizations wanted to explore similar arrangements. The Centauri Trade Federation sent a delegation led by Ambassador Cress Volland. Commander Zara, Captain Morrison, the Federation is facing increased pressure from raiders operating from the disputed zones. We would like to discuss defensive cooperation. The Andorian Colonial Assembly sent their military attaché, General Rex Horn. Our colonies on the frontier are vulnerable to attack. We have studied your victory here and believe similar tactics could be effective in our situation. Even former neutral species were expressing interest. The Tau Ceti Science Collective, traditionally pacifist, sent Dr. Ellen Marsh to discuss defensive preparations. Our research stations contain knowledge that must be protected. We need to learn how to defend ourselves without compromising our principles. Captain Morrison addressed this gathering of diverse species. The principle of mutual defense does not require all participants to adopt identical approaches. Each species contributes according to their capabilities and principles. For example, he continued, the Zephyrians excel at long-range coordination and tactical planning. The Centaurians have advanced manufacturing capabilities. The Andorians have extensive frontier experience. The Tau Ceti Collective has scientific resources that benefit everyone. Commander Zara realized they were witnessing the birth of something unprecedented in galactic history. Captain, you are describing a voluntary alliance of independent species, united by shared defensive goals. Commander, you are describing the foundation of lasting galactic peace. When aggressive species know they face not just individual targets, but a coordinated alliance, they become much less likely to initiate conflicts. Dr. Martin was frantically recording everything. This is remarkable. Human intervention at Kepler. Station has catalyzed the formation of a galactic defense alliance. Admiral Hayes, participating via communication link, provided additional context. Doctor, this has been humanity's long-term strategic goal for centuries. We have been waiting for the right moment and the right catalyst to begin this process. The victory at Kepler Station provided both the demonstration and the inspiration needed to convince peaceful species that effective defense was possible. As the various delegations concluded their discussions and prepared to return to their home worlds, the framework for the Galactic Defense Alliance had been established. It was voluntary, flexible, and based on mutual support rather than domination. Captain Morrison prepared for the Defiance's next mission, knowing that his ship had been instrumental in changing the galaxy forever. Commander Zara, when we first arrived here 6 months ago, your people faced extinction. Now you are founding members of an alliance that will protect peaceful civilizations throughout the galaxy. Zara reflected on the incredible journey that had brought them to this point. Captain, the legends spoke of humans who appeared in times of crisis.